Question 1. Risk assessment procedures indicate that a candidate has submitted their application for the Baha University entrance exam, but certain required supporting documents appear to be missing or incomplete according to the official checklist. What is the most appropriate course of action to ensure compliance with Baha University's entrance exam regulations? Option A. Accept the application and attempt to obtain the missing documents from external sources without the candidate's direct involvement. Option B. Proceed with the assessment of the application, assuming the missing documents will be provided later without formal notification. Option C. Immediately reject the candidate's application due to the incomplete submission. Option D. Formally notify the candidate of the specific missing or incomplete documents and provide a clear deadline for their submission as per university guidelines. The correct answer is C. Immediately reject the candidate's application due to the incomplete submission. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires the applicant to navigate the specific regulatory framework of Baha University's entrance examination. The challenge lies in identifying the correct procedure for handling a situation where a candidate's submitted documents appear to be incomplete, balancing the need for thoroughness with the university's established admission guidelines. Misinterpreting or misapplying these guidelines could lead to an unfair assessment of the candidate or a breach of the university's administrative protocols. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves adhering strictly to the established procedures for incomplete documentation as outlined by Baha University's entrance exam regulations. This means verifying the specific requirements for all submitted documents and, if any are missing or incomplete, formally notifying the candidate of the deficiency and providing a clear deadline for submission. This approach is correct because it upholds the principles of fairness, transparency, and due process mandated by the university's admission framework. It ensures that all candidates are treated equally and are given a reasonable opportunity to fulfill the application requirements, thereby respecting the integrity of the entrance examination process. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to immediately reject the application without further inquiry. This fails to comply with the university's likely procedures for handling incomplete applications, which typically involve a notification and a chance to rectify the situation. Such an action would be procedurally unfair and could violate the spirit of the admission regulations. Another incorrect approach is to proceed with the assessment of the application despite the known deficiencies. This bypasses the established administrative steps and could lead to an invalid admission if the missing documents are critical. It demonstrates a disregard for the university's regulatory framework and could compromise the validity of the entire entrance examination process. A third incorrect approach is to accept the application and assume the missing documents will be provided later without a formal process. This creates an ad hoc system that deviates from the structured and regulated admission process, potentially leading to inconsistencies and favoritism, and undermining the credibility of the university's entrance examinations. Professional reasoning. Professionals in university admissions must first thoroughly understand the specific regulatory framework governing their institution's entrance examinations. When faced with a situation like incomplete documentation, the decision-making process should involve 1. Identifying the exact requirements as per the official regulations. 2. Determining the university's prescribed procedure for handling such discrepancies. 3. Communicating clearly and formally with the applicant, outlining the specific deficiencies and the required corrective actions within a defined timeframe. 4. Documenting all communications and actions taken. This systematic approach ensures compliance, fairness, and the integrity of the admission process. Question 2. Comparative studies suggest that while students often seek to maximize their chances of success in university entrance exams, the methods employed must strictly align with the established academic integrity policies of the institution. Considering the Baha University entrance exams regulatory framework, which emphasizes fair assessment and prohibits any form of academic dishonesty, what is the most appropriate action for a student preparing for the exam? Option A. Utilizing official past papers provided by Baha University for practice, focusing on understanding the question types and expected knowledge domains. Option B. Forming a study group that actively shares and discusses potential exam questions and answers during the preparation period, with the intention of collectively answering them during the exam. Option C. Obtaining and using unofficial study guides that claim to contain leaked questions and answers for the upcoming Baha University entrance exam. Option D. Submitting a personal statement that exaggerates academic achievements and extracurricular involvement to create a more favorable impression for admission. The correct answer is A. Utilizing official past papers provided by Baha University for practice, focusing on understanding the question types and expected knowledge domains. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to excel and the university's commitment to academic integrity. The pressure to perform well on entrance exams, especially in a competitive environment like Baha University, can lead some students to seek unfair advantages. Navigating this requires a strong understanding of the Baha University entrance exam's specific regulatory framework, which emphasizes fairness, honesty, and the accurate assessment of a candidate's knowledge and aptitude. The correct approach involves adhering strictly to the examination rules and regulations as stipulated by Baha University. This means ensuring that all submitted work is the student's own, without any external assistance or unauthorized materials. This approach is ethically sound and legally compliant with the Baha University entrance exams guidelines, which explicitly prohibit cheating and plagiarism. It upholds the principle of meritocracy, ensuring that admission is based on genuine academic achievement. An incorrect approach would be to provide or use unauthorized study materials that contain direct answers or solutions to potential exam questions. This violates the core principles of academic integrity and the specific regulations of the Baha University entrance exam, which are designed to ensure a fair and equitable assessment. Such an action undermines the validity of the examination process and constitutes academic misconduct. Another incorrect approach would be to collaborate with other students during the exam to share answers. This is a direct contravention of the examination's rules against collusion and is considered a serious breach of academic honesty under the Baha University entrance exams framework. It distorts the individual assessment of each candidate's capabilities. A third incorrect approach would be to misrepresent one's qualifications or prior academic record to gain an advantage. This is a form of deception that directly violates the trust placed in applicants and the integrity of the admissions process governed by Baha University's entrance exam regulations. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the specific rules and ethical guidelines of the institution. When faced with a situation that could compromise academic integrity, a professional must prioritize adherence to these regulations. This involves a commitment to honesty, fairness, and the pursuit of genuine academic merit. If unsure about the permissibility of an action, seeking clarification from the examination authorities is the responsible course of action. Question 3. Compliance review shows that the admissions committee for Baha University entrance exam is under pressure to meet enrollment targets for the upcoming academic year. One committee member suggests prioritizing applicants who have demonstrated strong leadership potential in extracurricular activities, even if their academic scores are slightly below the stated threshold, arguing this will lead to more successful graduates. Another member proposes fast-tracking applications from students whose parents are influential donors to the university. A third member suggests overlooking minor errors in submitted documents for applicants from certain regions, as these students may face more challenges in preparing their applications. Considering the regulatory framework and guidelines for the Baha University entrance exam, which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action for the admissions committee? Option A. Prioritize applicants with strong extracurricular leadership, even if their academic scores are slightly below the threshold, as this indicates potential for future success. Option B. Strictly adhere to the published admission criteria for all applicants, ensuring objective evaluation of academic merit and all required documentation, and address any enrollment shortfalls through broader recruitment efforts or by adjusting future admission standards based on comprehensive data analysis. Option C. Overlook minor discrepancies in application documents for applicants from certain regions to ensure a more inclusive and equitable selection process. Option D. Expedite the review process for applicants with connections to influential university donors to foster positive relationships and secure future support. The correct answer is B. Strictly adhere to the published admission criteria for all applicants, ensuring objective evaluation of academic merit and all required documentation, and address any enrollment shortfalls through broader recruitment efforts or by adjusting future admission standards based on comprehensive data analysis. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge due to the need to balance academic integrity with the university's commitment to fair and transparent admissions. The pressure to meet enrollment targets can create an environment where shortcuts or biased decision-making might be considered, but these actions would directly contravene the principles of fairness and meritocracy that underpin university admissions. Careful judgment is required to ensure that all applicants are evaluated according to established criteria, regardless of external pressures. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective review of all application materials against the published admission criteria for Baha University. This ensures that decisions are based on merit and adherence to the university's stated requirements, upholding the principle of equal opportunity for all prospective students. This aligns with the ethical obligation to maintain fairness and transparency in academic processes and adheres to the spirit of the Baha University entrance exam regulations, which are designed to select qualified candidates based on objective measures. An incorrect approach of prioritizing applicants based on perceived future potential without concrete evidence or established university guidelines would be a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This introduces subjectivity and bias, undermining the fairness of the admissions process and potentially violating the principle of equal treatment for all applicants. Another incorrect approach of expediting the review for applicants with connections to university staff or faculty, even if they meet minimum requirements, introduces an element of favoritism. This is a clear breach of ethical conduct and likely violates internal university policies on conflict of interest and fair admissions, as it suggests preferential treatment not based on merit alone. A further incorrect approach of overlooking minor discrepancies in application documents for certain applicants, while strictly enforcing them for others, creates an inconsistent and unfair application of the rules. This selective enforcement erodes trust in the admissions process and can lead to accusations of bias, failing to uphold the integrity of the university's standards. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a commitment to the established admission criteria, a rigorous adherence to procedural fairness, and a proactive identification and mitigation of any potential biases or conflicts of interest. Professionals must always prioritize transparency, objectivity, and equity in their decision-making, ensuring that all actions are defensible against the university's regulatory framework and ethical guidelines. Question 4. Regulatory review indicates that some prospective students preparing for the Baha University entrance exam have been sharing and discussing specific, previously administered exam questions and answers online. This practice, if unchecked, could compromise the fairness and validity of the entrance examination. Which of the following approaches best upholds the principles of academic integrity and ensures a fair assessment for all candidates? Option A. Monitor online forums for discussions of past exam questions, but take no direct action, assuming that the current exam will be sufficiently different to mitigate any advantage gained. Option B. Immediately disqualify any candidate identified as having accessed or shared past exam questions without further investigation or communication. Option C. Focus on developing a new exam with entirely novel question types that are impossible to prepare for using past materials, without explicitly addressing the issue of past question sharing. Option D. Issue a public statement to all prospective applicants clarifying the university's strict policy against the sharing of past exam materials, outlining the severe consequences for any candidate found to be involved, and emphasizing the importance of original work and ethical preparation. The correct answer is D. Issue a public statement to all prospective applicants clarifying the university's strict policy against the sharing of past exam materials, outlining the severe consequences for any candidate found to be involved, and emphasizing the importance of original work and ethical preparation. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to present their best work and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The pressure to succeed in a university entrance exam, especially for a competitive program at Baha University, can lead students to seek advantages that may cross ethical boundaries. The challenge lies in identifying and addressing potential breaches of academic honesty without unfairly penalizing students or compromising the integrity of the examination process. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between legitimate preparation and academic misconduct. The correct approach involves a proactive and educational stance, focusing on clarifying expectations and providing resources to prevent academic dishonesty. This approach aligns with the principles of fairness and integrity that underpin academic institutions. By clearly communicating the university's policies on academic honesty and the consequences of violations, Baha University demonstrates its commitment to upholding ethical standards, providing guidance on proper citation, research methods, and the definition of plagiarism ensures that students understand what constitutes acceptable academic practice. This preventative measure is crucial for fostering an environment of trust and academic rigor, directly supporting the spirit of the Baha University entrance exam regulations. An incorrect approach would be to ignore the observed behavior, assuming it is isolated or not significant enough to warrant intervention. This failure to act undermines the university's commitment to academic integrity and creates an uneven playing field for honest students. It implicitly condones potentially unethical behavior. Another incorrect approach would be to immediately implement punitive measures without prior clarification or warning. This can be perceived as overly harsh and may not account for genuine misunderstandings of academic honesty policies. While consequences are necessary, a graduated approach that prioritizes education and prevention is more aligned with fostering a responsible academic community. A further incorrect approach would be to focus solely on the technical aspects of the exam content without addressing the underlying ethical considerations. While the exam tests knowledge, it also serves as an introduction to the academic environment, which is governed by ethical principles. Neglecting these principles would be a disservice to the student's overall development. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough understanding of the Baha University's academic integrity policies. It requires assessing the situation for potential violations, considering the intent behind any observed behavior, and prioritizing educational interventions before resorting to punitive measures. A balanced approach that upholds academic standards while supporting student learning and ethical development is paramount. Question 5. Consider a scenario where during the Baha University entrance examination, a proctor observes a candidate discreetly using a small, pre-written note containing formulas and definitions. The proctor is aware that the university has strict policies against any form of academic dishonesty during entrance examinations. What is the most appropriate course of action for the proctor to take in accordance with Baha University's regulatory framework for entrance examinations? Option A. Confiscate the note, discreetly inform the candidate that their action is a violation, and continue to monitor them closely for the remainder of the exam, reporting the incident to the examination committee afterwards. Option B. Allow the candidate to continue using the note, but instruct them to submit it along with their exam paper for review by the examination committee. Option C. Immediately stop the candidate from continuing the exam and escort them out of the examination hall, reporting the incident to the university's disciplinary board. Option D. Ignore the note, assuming it was a minor oversight and not intended to provide a significant advantage, to avoid disrupting the examination environment. Correct answer is A. Confiscate the note, discreetly inform the candidate that their action is a violation, and continue to monitor them closely for the remainder of the exam, reporting the incident to the examination committee afterwards. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The university entrance exam, governed by Baha University's specific regulatory framework, aims to evaluate a candidate's preparedness and potential. Introducing external, unauthorized assistance directly undermines this objective and violates the principles of honesty and meritocracy that underpin academic institutions. Careful judgment is required to uphold these principles while addressing the student's situation appropriately. The correct approach involves adhering strictly to Baha University's established examination regulations and academic integrity policies. This means recognizing the unauthorized assistance as a violation and initiating the prescribed disciplinary process. This process typically involves investigating the incident, providing the student with an opportunity to respond, and applying consequences as outlined in the university's rules. This approach is ethically sound and legally compliant because it upholds the fairness of the examination process for all candidates and reinforces the university's commitment to academic honesty, as mandated by its internal regulations. An incorrect approach would be to overlook the unauthorized assistance due to sympathy for the student's situation or pressure to admit students. This failure to report and address the violation directly contravenes Baha University's examination regulations, which are designed to ensure a level playing field. Such inaction compromises the integrity of the entrance exam and sets a dangerous precedent, potentially encouraging future academic dishonesty. Another incorrect approach would be to immediately dismiss the student without a proper investigation or adherence to due process. While academic integrity is paramount, university regulations typically mandate a fair and thorough investigation before any disciplinary action is taken. This approach risks violating the student's rights and the university's own procedural guidelines, potentially leading to legal challenges or reputational damage. A third incorrect approach would be to offer the student an alternative, less rigorous assessment method without proper authorization or a clear policy basis. This circumvents the established entrance examination process and undermines the validity of the assessment for all applicants. It also fails to address the initial violation of academic integrity. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of Baha University's examination rules and academic integrity policies. When faced with a potential violation, the professional should 1. Document the observed incident thoroughly. 2. Consult the relevant university regulations to understand the prescribed procedures for handling such violations. 3. Report the incident through the appropriate channels within the university administration. 4. Cooperate fully with any subsequent investigation, ensuring that all actions taken are in line with university policy and due process. 5. Maintain objectivity and impartiality throughout the process, prioritizing the integrity of the academic system. Question 6. The performance metrics show a significant shortfall in the expected enrollment numbers for the upcoming academic year, prompting a discussion about potential adjustments to the Baha University entrance exam selection criteria to meet targets. Option A. Recommend engaging external consultants to devise alternative admission pathways that bypass the standard Baha University entrance exam procedures. Option B. Propose modifications to the entrance exam scoring rubric that align with Baha University's stated admission objectives and are fully compliant with the official entrance exam regulations, ensuring no applicant is disadvantaged. Option C. Suggest prioritizing applicants from specific demographic groups who may not have met the standard entrance exam benchmarks in an effort to boost enrollment numbers. Option D. Advocate for a direct override of certain entrance exam score thresholds based on the enrollment shortfall, without a formal review or amendment process of the established criteria. The correct answer is B. Propose modifications to the entrance exam scoring rubric that align with Baha University's stated admission objectives and are fully compliant with the official entrance exam regulations, ensuring no applicant is disadvantaged. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's strategic goals with the ethical obligations of ensuring fair and transparent admission processes, all within the specific regulatory framework of Baha University's entrance exam guidelines. The pressure to meet performance metrics, such as enrollment targets, can create a temptation to overlook or bend established procedures, potentially compromising the integrity of the admissions process. Careful judgment is required to uphold academic standards and fairness while also contributing to the university's objectives. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the performance metrics in conjunction with the established Baha University entrance exam regulations. This approach prioritizes adherence to the official guidelines, ensuring that any proposed adjustments or interpretations are fully compliant with the university's stated policies for student selection. This upholds the principle of fairness and equal opportunity for all applicants, which is a cornerstone of academic integrity and a likely implicit or explicit requirement within the Baha University entrance exam framework. It also ensures that the university's performance is measured against its own defined standards, rather than through potentially biased or non-compliant means. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on achieving performance metrics without regard for the entrance exam regulations would be professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a disregard for the established legal and procedural framework governing admissions, which could lead to accusations of bias, unfairness, and a breach of trust. Such an approach would undermine the credibility of the university and its admissions process. Another incorrect approach that involves seeking external, non-university sanctioned methods to influence admission outcomes would also be a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This bypasses the established, transparent procedures and introduces an element of arbitrariness and potential corruption, directly contravening the spirit and letter of university entrance exam regulations designed to ensure merit-based selection. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic evaluation of the situation against the governing regulations. First, clearly identify the performance metrics and the relevant Baha University entrance exam regulations. Second, assess any discrepancies or challenges in meeting the metrics within the regulatory boundaries. Third, consult the official Baha University entrance exam guidelines and any relevant university policies to determine the permissible course of action. If ambiguity exists, seek clarification from the appropriate university authorities responsible for admissions and regulatory compliance. The ultimate decision must prioritize adherence to the established regulatory framework, ensuring fairness, transparency, and academic integrity. Question 7. The investigation demonstrates that a prospective student, during the Baha University entrance examination, was observed using unauthorized materials. The university's academic integrity policy clearly outlines procedures for handling such incidents, emphasizing fairness and thoroughness. Which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action for the university administration? Option A. Issue a warning to the student and allow them to retake the examination, considering the potential impact on their future academic career. Option B. Dismiss the allegation due to the student's strong academic record in previous schooling, assuming it was an isolated mistake. Option C. Immediately disqualify the student and deny admission based on the observation, without further inquiry. Option D. Conduct a formal investigation, gathering all evidence, allowing the student to present their defense, and then making a decision in accordance with Baha University's academic integrity policies. The correct answer is C. Immediately disqualify the student and deny admission based on the observation, without further inquiry. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to excel and the university's commitment to academic integrity. The pressure to perform well in entrance exams can lead students to seek unfair advantages, necessitating a robust and ethical response from the university. Careful judgment is required to uphold the principles of fairness and prevent the erosion of the examination's credibility. The correct approach involves a thorough and impartial investigation that adheres strictly to Baha University's established examination regulations and academic integrity policies. This approach prioritizes gathering all relevant evidence, providing the accused student with a fair opportunity to respond, and ensuring that any disciplinary action is proportionate and consistent with university guidelines. This upholds the regulatory framework by ensuring due process and maintaining the integrity of the entrance examination process, which is paramount for fair selection of candidates. An incorrect approach that involves immediate dismissal without a proper investigation fails to adhere to the principles of natural justice and due process, which are implicitly or explicitly part of university regulation. This approach bypasses the opportunity for the student to present their side of the story and can lead to unjust outcomes. Another incorrect approach that involves ignoring the allegations due to the student's perceived potential or the inconvenience of a formal process undermines the university's commitment to academic integrity. This approach creates a precedent that cheating may be overlooked, thereby devaluing the qualifications of all students and damaging the university's reputation. A further incorrect approach that involves imposing a penalty without consulting the relevant university disciplinary committee or following established procedures violates the university's own governance and regulatory framework. This can lead to inconsistent and unfair disciplinary actions. A professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a systematic approach. First, acknowledging the seriousness of the allegation. Second, initiating a formal investigation in accordance with university policy. Third, ensuring all parties have a fair hearing. Fourth, consulting relevant regulations and policies to determine appropriate sanctions. And finally, documenting all steps taken and decisions made to ensure transparency and accountability. Question 8. The analysis reveals that a prospective student applying to Baha University has been approached by an individual claiming to possess leaked questions for the upcoming entrance examination, offering them for a significant sum of money. The student is aware that Baha University has a strict policy against academic dishonesty as detailed in its entrance exam guidelines. What is the most ethically and regulatorily sound course of action for the student? Option A. Attempt to negotiate a lower price for the leaked questions, considering them as a valuable study resource. Option B. Ignore the offer and the individual, assuming that no action is necessary as they have not personally engaged with the leaked material. Option C. Accept the leaked questions and use them to study, believing that this will increase their chances of admission without directly impacting their performance during the actual exam. Option D. Politely decline the offer, refrain from engaging further with the individual, and immediately report the incident, including any details provided, to the Baha University Admissions Office or the designated Examination Integrity Committee. The correct answer is D. Politely decline the offer, refrain from engaging further with the individual, and immediately report the incident, including any details provided, to the Baha University Admissions Office or the designated Examination Integrity Committee. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The pressure to perform well in entrance exams, especially for a competitive program at Baha University, can lead students to seek shortcuts. The university's regulatory framework, as outlined for the Baha University entrance exam, strictly prohibits any form of academic dishonesty. This includes the unauthorized sharing of exam content or the use of external assistance during the examination period. The correct approach involves adhering strictly to the Baha University entrance exams regulations regarding exam conduct and academic integrity. This means refusing to engage in any activity that could compromise the fairness or security of the examination process. Specifically, it requires the student to decline the offer of leaked exam questions and to report the incident to the appropriate university authorities. This aligns with the university's ethical obligation to maintain a fair and equitable assessment environment for all candidates and upholds the principle of meritocracy. An incorrect approach would be to accept the leaked exam questions and use them to prepare for or answer the exam. This directly violates the Baha University entrance exams regulations against academic dishonesty and cheating. Such an action undermines the integrity of the entrance examination, devalues the achievements of honest candidates, and compromises the university's reputation. It also exposes the student to severe academic penalties, including disqualification from the entrance exam and potential disciplinary action by the university. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the offer without reporting it. While this might seem like a neutral stance, it fails to uphold the university's commitment to academic integrity. By not reporting the attempted breach, the student implicitly allows the possibility of others exploiting such information, thereby contributing to an unfair examination environment. The university's guidelines likely mandate reporting of such incidents to ensure a secure and fair process for all. The professional decision-making process in such a situation should be guided by a strong ethical compass and a thorough understanding of the Baha University entrance exam's specific regulations. Professionals must prioritize integrity and fairness above personal gain or convenience. This involves 1. Recognizing the ethical dilemma and the potential consequences of each action. 2. Consulting the relevant university regulations to understand the explicit rules and penalties. 3. Choosing the course of action that upholds academic integrity and complies with all stipulated guidelines. 4. Taking proactive steps to report any observed or suspected breaches of these regulations to the designated university officials. Question 9. The control framework reveals that the Baha University entrance exam is designed to assess candidates based on a standardized curriculum and objective evaluation criteria. A senior official from a prominent affiliated institution contacts the examination administrator, requesting that a specific candidate, who is known to be struggling with a particular subject area, be given special consideration during the examination, implying a less stringent application of the scoring rubric for that subject. What is the most appropriate course of action for the examination administrator to take in adherence to the Baha University entrance exams regulatory framework? Option A. Politely decline the request, explaining that the examination process is standardized and all candidates are assessed under the same criteria as per the Baha University entrance exam regulations, and direct the official to the official appeals process if available. Option B. Forward the request to the examination committee for review without explicitly stating the implications of special consideration. Option C. Advise the official that while direct intervention is not possible, the candidate can be offered additional preparatory materials after the exam. Option D. Agree to the request and instruct the examiners to be more lenient with the specific candidate's scoring in the subject area in question. The correct answer is A. Politely decline the request, explaining that the examination process is standardized and all candidates are assessed under the same criteria as per the Baha University entrance exam regulations, and direct the official to the official appeals process if available. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between maintaining academic integrity and responding to external pressures that might compromise it. The Baha University entrance exams regulatory framework emphasizes fairness, transparency, and adherence to established admission criteria. The challenge lies in navigating a request that could be perceived as an attempt to bypass these established processes, potentially undermining the credibility of the examination and the university's admission standards. Careful judgment is required to uphold the integrity of the exam while addressing the request appropriately within the defined regulatory boundaries. The correct approach involves a direct and transparent communication with the relevant university admissions committee or examination oversight body. This approach acknowledges the request but firmly reiterates the established procedures and criteria for admission as outlined in the Baha University entrance exam regulations. It prioritizes adherence to the official framework, ensuring that all candidates are evaluated based on the same objective standards. This aligns with the regulatory requirement for a fair and equitable examination process, preventing any undue influence or preferential treatment that could violate the spirit and letter of the exam's guidelines. An incorrect approach would be to directly grant the request without consulting the appropriate authorities or considering the established examination protocols. This bypasses the established control framework and could be interpreted as a breach of academic integrity and fairness. Fails to uphold the principle of equal opportunity for all applicants and could set a precedent for future similar requests, eroding the credibility of the entrance examination. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the request entirely. While this might seem like a way to avoid direct involvement, it fails to address the situation professionally and could lead to misunderstandings or further escalation. The regulatory framework implicitly expects a responsible and responsive handling of all inquiries related to the examination process, even those that are challenging. A third incorrect approach would be to attempt to subtly alter the examination process or scoring to accommodate the request without explicit approval. This is a direct violation of the control framework's emphasis on transparency and objective evaluation. Such actions would constitute a serious ethical lapse and could have severe repercussions for the individuals involved and the university's reputation. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve, first, understanding the specific regulations and guidelines governing the Baha University entrance exam. Second, identifying the core principles at stake, such as fairness, integrity, and transparency. Third, evaluating the request against these principles and regulations. And fourth, communicating the decision or proposed course of action clearly and professionally to all relevant parties, ensuring adherence to the established framework. Question 10. To address the challenge of demonstrating preparedness for the Baha University entrance exam while strictly adhering to its academic integrity policies, a candidate finds themselves in a situation where they are unsure if a specific type of personal, handwritten note is permitted for reference during the examination. The candidate has prepared these notes extensively based on their own study materials. What is the most appropriate course of action to uphold the integrity of the examination process? Option A. Approach the examination proctor and ask for clarification on whether personal handwritten notes are permitted. Option B. Proceed to use the handwritten notes, assuming that personal study aids are implicitly allowed if not explicitly forbidden. Option C. Refrain from using the handwritten notes and rely solely on their memorized knowledge and understanding, even if it means potentially answering fewer questions accurately. Option D. Discreetly attempt to consult the notes during the exam, hoping that proctors will not notice. The correct answer is B. Proceed to use the handwritten notes, assuming that personal study aids are implicitly allowed if not explicitly forbidden. Explanation. The scenario presents a professional challenge related to academic integrity and the ethical responsibilities of students within the Baha University entrance examination framework. The core difficulty lies in balancing the need to demonstrate knowledge with the imperative to adhere to the university's strict guidelines on academic honesty, particularly concerning the use of external resources during the examination. The university's regulations are designed to ensure a fair and equitable assessment of each candidate's individual capabilities. The correct approach involves a student recognizing the prohibition of unauthorized external materials and choosing to rely solely on their own knowledge and understanding. This aligns directly with the Baha University entrance exam's regulatory framework, which implicitly or explicitly mandates that all submitted work must be the candidate's original effort, free from any form of external assistance. Upholding this principle is an ethical obligation that demonstrates respect for the examination process and the integrity of the academic institution. An incorrect approach would be to consult unauthorized notes or digital resources. This action constitutes a direct violation of the examination's integrity rules, undermining the fairness of the assessment for all candidates. Such a breach not only jeopardizes the individual's chance of admission, but also reflects a disregard for the ethical standards expected of future university students. Another incorrect approach would be to claim ignorance of the rules as a defense. While understanding the specific nuances of every regulation can be challenging, the fundamental expectation of academic honesty is a cornerstone of any educational institution, and a failure to adhere to it, regardless of perceived intent, is a serious infraction. The professional decision-making process in such a situation should involve a clear understanding of the examination rules prior to commencement. Candidates must internalize the principles of academic integrity and self-assess their preparedness. If faced with uncertainty about what constitutes permissible or impermissible conduct, the prudent course of action is to err on the side of caution and avoid any action that could be construed as a violation. This proactive approach, rooted in a commitment to honesty and adherence to established guidelines, is crucial for navigating the ethical landscape of academic assessments. Question 11. The review process indicates that some of the proposed questions for the Baha University entrance exam appear to deviate from the established syllabus and format guidelines. To ensure compliance with the university's academic standards and the integrity of the entrance examination, which of the following actions is the most appropriate course of action? Option A. Proceed with the examination as planned, assuming the deviations are minor and unlikely to significantly impact the overall assessment of candidates' suitability for admission. Option B. Rely on the subjective judgment of the review team regarding the intent and spirit of the examination to determine if the deviations are acceptable. Option C. Modify the syllabus to accommodate the proposed questions, arguing that the new questions better reflect current academic trends. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive cross-reference of all examination questions and their alignment with the official Baha University entrance exam syllabus and procedural guidelines, seeking clarification from the Academic Affairs Committee for any ambiguities. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive cross-reference of all examination questions and their alignment with the official Baha University entrance exam syllabus and procedural guidelines, seeking clarification from the Academic Affairs Committee for any ambiguities. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the critical nature of academic integrity and the potential for misinterpretation of university policies. The entrance exam for Baha University is designed to assess a candidate's foundational knowledge and aptitude. Ensuring that the examination process is fair, transparent, and adheres strictly to the university's established guidelines is paramount. The challenge lies in balancing the need to uphold these standards with the practicalities of administering a large-scale assessment, where deviations, even minor ones, can have significant implications for the validity of the results and the fairness to all applicants. The correct approach involves a thorough and systematic review of the examination materials against the Baha University's official entrance exam regulations. This includes verifying that all questions align with the prescribed syllabus, that the difficulty level is appropriate for incoming students, and that the format adheres to the guidelines set forth by the university's academic council. Specifically, this approach requires consulting the official Baha University Entrance Exam Handbook and any supplementary directives issued by the relevant academic departments. This ensures that the examination accurately reflects the intended assessment objectives and complies with the university's commitment to academic rigor and fairness. An incorrect approach that involves making subjective judgments about the spirit of the exam without direct reference to the official regulations is professionally unacceptable. This bypasses the established governance and can lead to inconsistencies and bias. It fails to adhere to the explicit requirements of the Baha University's examination framework, which mandates adherence to documented policies. Another incorrect approach, which is to prioritize speed of review over thoroughness by only checking a sample of questions, risks overlooking critical errors or policy violations that could compromise the integrity of the entire exam. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the meticulous standards expected in academic assessment. Professionals tasked with reviewing entrance examination materials should adopt a systematic decision-making process. This begins with clearly identifying the governing regulatory framework, in this case, the Baha University Entrance Exam Regulations. Next, they must meticulously compare the examination content and procedures against each specific requirement outlined in these regulations. Any discrepancies or ambiguities should be flagged and resolved by consulting the official documentation or seeking clarification from the designated university authorities. This structured approach ensures that all decisions are grounded in established policy, promoting fairness, accuracy, and accountability. Question 12. What factors determine an applicant's eligibility for admission to Baha University's entrance examination program? Option A. The applicant's ability to cover the full tuition fees for the duration of their studies. Option B. The applicant's network of influential contacts within the university administration. Option C. Successful completion of the prescribed academic prerequisites and adherence to all administrative application procedures as detailed in the Baha University Entrance Exam Guidelines. Option D. Demonstrated leadership potential through extensive participation in university-sponsored clubs and organizations. The correct answer is C. Successful completion of the prescribed academic prerequisites and adherence to all administrative application procedures as detailed in the Baha University Entrance Exam Guidelines. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the fundamental principles governing university admissions within the specific regulatory framework of Baha University. The challenge lies in identifying the primary determinants of admission eligibility, ensuring that the applicant's reasoning aligns with the established criteria and does not introduce extraneous or irrelevant factors. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between essential requirements and desirable, but not mandatory, attributes. The correct approach involves recognizing that admission to Baha University is fundamentally determined by meeting the academic prerequisites and fulfilling the administrative requirements as outlined in the university's official entrance examination guidelines. This approach is correct because it directly addresses the core purpose of an entrance examination: to assess an applicant's readiness for higher education based on predefined academic standards and procedural compliance. Adherence to these guidelines is a direct reflection of the university's commitment to fair and equitable admission processes, as mandated by its regulatory framework. An incorrect approach would be to focus solely on extracurricular achievements without acknowledging the academic foundation. This is ethically and regulatorily flawed because it undervalues the primary purpose of an entrance exam, which is to gauge academic preparedness. While extracurricular activities may be considered in a holistic review, they cannot supersede the essential academic and procedural requirements set forth by the university. Another incorrect approach would be to prioritize personal connections or perceived influence over stated admission criteria. This is a significant ethical and regulatory failure, as it undermines the principles of meritocracy and equal opportunity. Such an approach suggests a disregard for the established rules and could lead to unfair admissions, damaging the university's reputation and violating its commitment to transparency and fairness. A third incorrect approach would be to assume that financial capacity alone guarantees admission. While tuition fees are a practical consideration, they are not a primary determinant of academic eligibility for an entrance examination. Focusing on financial capacity as a deciding factor ignores the academic rigor and selection process that the university has established. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a systematic evaluation of the applicant's profile against the explicit requirements of the institution. Professionals should first consult the official documentation outlining admission criteria, including academic scores, required documents, and any specific tests or interviews. They should then assess how the applicant's qualifications align with these stated requirements. Any deviation from these established criteria should be carefully scrutinized for ethical and regulatory compliance. The focus should always remain on the objective and transparent application of the university's admission policies. Question 13. The monitoring system demonstrates a statistically significant deviation in an applicant's response patterns during the Baha University entrance examination, suggesting a potential breach of examination integrity, but the exact nature of the deviation is not immediately clear. What is the most appropriate immediate course of action for the examination administration? Option A. Immediately disqualify the applicant and flag their application for review by the admissions committee. Option B. Ignore the anomaly as it is not definitively indicative of misconduct and could be a system error. Option C. Contact the applicant directly to inquire about the observed response patterns before any formal investigation. Option D. Initiate a formal, documented investigation into the detected anomaly, gathering all relevant data and consulting Baha University's examination regulations before making any determination. The correct answer is A. Immediately disqualify the applicant and flag their application for review by the admissions committee. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between maintaining academic integrity and ensuring a fair assessment process, especially within the context of university entrance examinations. The pressure to uphold the reputation of Baha University and the integrity of its admissions process requires careful judgment in interpreting and acting upon the findings of the monitoring system. The university must balance the need to identify potential irregularities with the rights of the applicants. The correct approach involves a systematic and evidence-based investigation. This means that upon detecting an anomaly, the university's designated examination committee or relevant authority should initiate a formal review process. This process should involve gathering all available data, including the specific nature of the anomaly, the applicant's response patterns, and any contextual information. The investigation must be conducted impartially, adhering strictly to the Baha University's examination regulations and any relevant Saudi Arabian Ministry of Education guidelines pertaining to academic integrity and entrance examinations. The outcome of this investigation should then inform a decision regarding the applicant, which must be communicated clearly and in accordance with established university procedures, allowing for due process and potential appeals. This upholds the principles of fairness, transparency, and accountability mandated by the regulatory framework governing university admissions in Saudi Arabia. An incorrect approach would be to immediately disqualify an applicant based solely on a single detected anomaly, without a thorough investigation. This fails to acknowledge the possibility of technical glitches, misinterpretations of the monitoring system's output, or other mitigating factors. Such an action would violate the principles of due process and fairness, potentially leading to an unjust outcome for the applicant and damaging the university's reputation. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the detected anomaly altogether. This would undermine the integrity of the entrance examination and the admissions process, potentially allowing unqualified or improperly admitted candidates to gain entry, which contravenes the university's responsibility to maintain high academic standards and comply with regulatory expectations for fair selection. A third incorrect approach might involve a superficial review that does not adequately document the findings or the decision-making process, failing to provide a clear audit trail and leaving the university vulnerable to challenges regarding the fairness and validity of its admissions decisions. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established regulations and ethical principles. This involves 1. Acknowledging the detected anomaly and its potential implications. 2. Initiating a predefined investigation protocol that is transparent and fair. 3. Gathering and meticulously documenting all relevant evidence. 4. Consulting the specific Baha University examination regulations and any applicable Saudi Arabian Ministry of Education directives. 5. Making a decision based on the evidence and regulatory framework, ensuring it is justifiable and defensible. 6. Communicating the decision and any subsequent actions to the applicant in a clear and timely manner, respecting their right to understand the process and potentially appeal. Question 14. Governance review demonstrates that a significant philanthropic donation is being considered by Baha University. The potential donor has a complex business history, and some of their past dealings have raised ethical questions, though no legal convictions have occurred. The university's budget is currently strained, and this donation would significantly alleviate immediate financial pressures. The university's leadership is eager to accept the funds quickly. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the regulatory framework and ethical guidelines for Baha University? Option A. Accept the donation immediately to address the urgent budget deficit, assuming the donor's past issues are not legally proven and therefore not a concern. Option B. Proceed with accepting the donation, but keep the donor's complex history confidential from the university's board and relevant committees to avoid unnecessary delays. Option C. Accept the donation with a vague understanding of its intended use, prioritizing the immediate financial relief over detailed stipulations or donor intentions. Option D. Conduct a thorough due diligence investigation into the donor's background and the implications of the donation, ensuring full transparency and adherence to all relevant Saudi Arabian laws and university policies before acceptance. The correct answer is D. Conduct a thorough due diligence investigation into the donor's background and the implications of the donation, ensuring full transparency and adherence to all relevant Saudi Arabian laws and university policies before acceptance. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's immediate financial needs with its long-term ethical obligations and regulatory compliance. The pressure to secure funding quickly can lead to overlooking potential conflicts of interest or misrepresenting the university's financial standing, which are serious ethical and regulatory breaches. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any funding arrangement aligns with Baha University's mission and adheres strictly to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia's regulatory framework governing higher education institutions and financial dealings. The correct approach involves a thorough due diligence process that prioritizes transparency, ethical conduct, and adherence to all applicable Saudi Arabian laws and university policies. This includes a comprehensive review of the potential donor's background, the terms of the donation, and any potential implications for the university's academic freedom or operational independence. Specifically, it requires consulting the relevant articles within the Saudi Arabian Basic Law of Governance, the Higher Education Law, and any specific regulations or guidelines issued by the Ministry of Education concerning financial contributions and partnerships. This approach ensures that the university acts responsibly and maintains its integrity. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the immediate financial benefit, without considering the donor's reputation or the potential for undue influence, would be a significant ethical failure. This could lead to accepting funds from sources that are not aligned with the university's values, or that could compromise its academic mission, violating principles of good governance and potentially contravening regulations that aim to protect the integrity of educational institutions. Another incorrect approach that involves circumventing established university approval processes or failing to disclose potential conflicts of interest to the relevant university committees or governing bodies is a direct violation of internal governance policies and potentially Saudi Arabian administrative law. Such actions undermine transparency and accountability, creating a risk of reputational damage and regulatory sanctions. A third incorrect approach that involves accepting the donation without a clear understanding of its intended use or any associated conditions could lead to the funds being misapplied or used in ways that are not in the best interest of the university or its students, violating principles of fiduciary responsibility and potentially specific financial regulations for nonprofit or educational entities in Saudi Arabia. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, clearly identify the ethical and regulatory considerations. Second, gather all relevant information about the proposed funding. Third, consult applicable laws, university policies, and ethical guidelines. Fourth, engage in open communication with relevant stakeholders. And finally, make a decision that upholds the university's integrity and long-term interests, even if it means foregoing immediate financial gains. Question 15. The assessment process reveals that an applicant for Baha University has been utilizing study materials that include past examination papers with detailed solutions provided by a private tutoring service. The applicant believes this is a standard and acceptable method of preparation. Which of the following approaches best reflects adherence to the Baha University entrance exam's regulatory framework and ethical standards? Option A. Proactively contacting the Baha University admissions office to inquire about the permissibility of using such detailed past paper solutions from external services. Option B. Relying on advice from friends and online forums regarding what constitutes acceptable preparation for the Baha University entrance exam. Option C. Proceeding with the current study method without seeking further clarification, as utilizing past papers is a common preparation technique. Option D. Continuing to use the provided past paper solutions, assuming that any prohibited material would have been explicitly stated as forbidden by the university. The correct answer is A. Proactively contacting the Baha University admissions office to inquire about the permissibility of using such detailed past paper solutions from external services. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to navigate the ethical and regulatory landscape of academic integrity within the context of a university entrance examination. The core difficulty lies in distinguishing between legitimate preparation and unethical assistance, and understanding the university's specific guidelines on acceptable conduct. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the applicant's actions are both compliant with Baha University's regulations and ethically sound, upholding the fairness of the examination process for all candidates. The correct approach involves the applicant proactively seeking clarification from the university regarding the scope of permissible preparatory materials and methods. This demonstrates a commitment to understanding and adhering to the established rules, thereby avoiding potential violations. This approach is ethically justified as it prioritizes transparency and compliance with the Baha University entrance exam regulations. It aligns with the principle of academic honesty by ensuring that the applicant's preparation does not involve any form of unfair advantage or prohibited assistance. An incorrect approach would be to assume that any form of external help is acceptable as long as it is not explicitly forbidden. This fails to recognize the implicit expectation of independent effort in an entrance examination and could lead to violations of academic integrity policies. The regulatory failure here is a lack of due diligence in understanding the specific rules of the Baha University entrance exam. Another incorrect approach would be to rely on information from unofficial sources or peers about what constitutes acceptable preparation. This is ethically problematic as it introduces the risk of misinformation and can lead to unintentional breaches of the examination's integrity. The regulatory failure is the failure to consult official university guidelines, which are the definitive source of information for the Baha University entrance exam. A third incorrect approach would be to proceed with preparation without considering the university's specific rules, believing that general study practices are sufficient. This demonstrates a disregard for the unique requirements of the Baha University entrance exam and can be interpreted as a lack of seriousness or respect for the examination process. The ethical failure is the assumption that personal interpretation of rules is acceptable when specific institutional guidelines exist. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a proactive and diligent approach to understanding institutional regulations. This includes 1. Identifying the relevant governing body and its specific rules, in this case, Baha University and its entrance exam guidelines. 2. Actively seeking official documentation and clarification on any ambiguous aspects of the rules. 3. consulting official channels for guidance rather than relying on informal or unofficial sources. 4. Prioritizing ethical conduct and academic integrity in all preparatory activities. Question 16. Governance review demonstrates that during the recent Baha University entrance exam, a proctor observed a student exhibiting behavior that strongly suggested the use of unauthorized aids. The proctor reported the incident, but no definitive proof of cheating was immediately available. The university's entrance exam regulations stipulate a clear process for handling suspected academic misconduct. What is the most appropriate course of action for the university administration to take in this situation, strictly adhering to the Baha University entrance exam regulatory framework? Option A. Immediately disqualify the student from the entrance exam and ban them from future admissions based on the proctor's observation, as a deterrent to others. Option B. Consult with external academic integrity experts for guidance on how to proceed, without directly referencing the specific Baha University entrance exam regulations. Option C. Issue a warning to the student regarding their behavior and allow their exam results to be processed normally, assuming no further evidence of cheating emerges. Option D. Initiate a formal investigation into the suspected misconduct, gathering all available evidence and providing the student with an opportunity to present their case before making a final decision in accordance with the university's established procedures for academic irregularities. The correct answer is D. Initiate a formal investigation into the suspected misconduct, gathering all available evidence, and providing the student with an opportunity to present their case before making a final decision in accordance with the university's established procedures for academic irregularities. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's commitment to academic integrity with the need to address potential misconduct swiftly and fairly. The decision-maker must navigate the specific regulations of Baha University's entrance exam framework, ensuring that any action taken is procedurally sound and ethically defensible. The core challenge lies in determining the appropriate response to a detected irregularity without prejudicing the applicant or compromising the integrity of the examination process. The correct approach involves a thorough, impartial investigation that adheres strictly to the Baha University entrance exam regulations concerning academic misconduct. This approach prioritizes due process for the student while upholding the standards of the examination. Specifically, it requires gathering all relevant evidence, providing the student with an opportunity to respond to the allegations, and then making a decision based on the established rules and procedures of the university. This aligns with principles of natural justice and the explicit guidelines governing the entrance exam, ensuring fairness and transparency. An incorrect approach would be to immediately disqualify the student based on a single piece of circumstantial evidence without allowing for a proper defense. This fails to adhere to the procedural fairness mandated by the university's regulations, potentially leading to an unjust outcome and reputational damage for the institution. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the irregularity altogether, which undermines the integrity of the entrance exam and sets a dangerous precedent for future applicants, violating the university's commitment to a fair and merit-based selection process. A third incorrect approach might be to consult external, non-university-specific ethical guidelines, thereby disregarding the precise regulatory framework established for the Baha University entrance exam. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making framework that begins with identifying the core issue and relevant regulations. This is followed by gathering all pertinent facts, assessing potential courses of action against the established rules and ethical principles, consulting with relevant university authorities if necessary, and finally, implementing the chosen course of action with clear documentation and communication. Question 17. Governance review demonstrates that a prominent local official has strongly advocated for the admission of their relative to Baha University, despite the relative's performance on the entrance examination falling below the standard admission threshold. The university's examination regulations clearly outline the criteria for admission based on exam scores and academic prerequisites. Which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action for the admissions committee? Option A. Create a special review committee to re-evaluate the candidate's exam results with the explicit goal of finding grounds for admission. Option B. Inform the local official that the candidate's exam performance is insufficient, but suggest alternative, non-academic programs within the university that might be more accommodating. Option C. Evaluate the candidate strictly based on the Baha University entrance exam regulations and established admission criteria, regardless of external influence. Option D. Expedite the admission process for the candidate to appease the local official and avoid potential repercussions. The correct answer is C. Evaluate the candidate strictly based on the Baha University entrance exam regulations and established admission criteria, regardless of external influence. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between maintaining academic integrity and responding to external pressures that might compromise it. The university entrance exam is a critical gatekeeping mechanism, and any deviation from its established standards can undermine its credibility and fairness. The pressure to admit a specific candidate, especially if it involves overlooking genuine academic deficiencies or procedural irregularities, requires careful judgment to uphold ethical principles and regulatory compliance. The correct approach involves a rigorous adherence to the Baha University's established admission policies and the examination regulation. This means evaluating the candidates solely on their performance in the entrance exam and their documented qualifications, without succumbing to external influence. This approach is ethically sound and regulatorily compliant because it upholds the principles of fairness, transparency, and meritocracy, which are fundamental to any educational institution's admission process. Specifically, it aligns with the spirit and letter of Baha University's entrance exam framework, which aims to select the most qualified candidates based on objective criteria. An incorrect approach that prioritizes the external request over the established examination standards would constitute a serious ethical and regulatory failure. This would involve circumventing the normal admission procedures or manipulating the evaluation process to favor the candidate. Such actions would violate the principles of fairness and equal opportunity, potentially leading to the admission of less qualified students and damaging the university's reputation. Furthermore, it could be seen as a breach of trust by the examination board and the university administration, potentially leading to disciplinary action. Professionals in such situations should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes ethical conduct and regulatory compliance. This framework involves 1. Identifying the core ethical and regulatory principles at stake: fairness, integrity, compliance. 2. Recognizing the potential conflicts of interest or undue influence. 3. Consulting relevant university policies and examination regulations. 4. Seeking guidance from appropriate internal authorities, e.g., admissions committee, legal counsel, if the situation is ambiguous or complex. 5. Making a decision that is demonstrably fair, transparent, and in accordance with all applicable rules and guidelines, even if it means resisting external pressure. Question 18. Governance review demonstrates that a potential donor has offered a substantial financial contribution to Baha University, earmarked for the development of new research facilities. However, preliminary inquiries suggest the donor's business activities may be in sectors that could present ethical concerns or potential conflicts of interest for the university. The university administration is under pressure to finalize this funding quickly to meet project deadlines. Which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action? Option A. Inform the donor that the university cannot accept their contribution due to potential ethical concerns, without conducting further investigation into the specifics of the donation or the donor's background. Option B. Negotiate with the donor to accept a portion of the donation that is clearly from ethically unproblematic sources, while politely declining the remainder. Option C. Proceed with accepting the donation after a thorough due diligence process to verify the donor's background and the terms of the donation, ensuring full compliance with Baha University's policies and relevant Saudi Arabian regulations. Option D. Accept the donation immediately to secure the funds for the research facilities, deferring any detailed ethical or regulatory review until after the initial project phase. The correct answer is C. Proceed with accepting the donation after a thorough due diligence process to verify the donor's background and the terms of the donation, ensuring full compliance with Baha University's policies and relevant Saudi Arabian regulations. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's immediate financial needs with its long-term ethical obligations and regulatory compliance. The pressure to secure funding quickly can lead to overlooking potential conflicts of interest or misrepresenting information, which are serious ethical and regulatory breaches. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any funding arrangement aligns with the principles of academic integrity and good governance as stipulated by Baha University's entrance exam framework. The correct approach involves a thorough due diligence process that prioritizes transparency and adherence to Baha University's established policies and the relevant Saudi Arabian regulations governing educational institutions. This includes verifying the source of funds, assessing any potential conditions attached to the funding that might compromise academic independence or institutional values, and ensuring all disclosures are accurate and complete. This aligns with the overarching principles of accountability and ethical conduct expected of educational bodies. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the speed of securing funds without adequate scrutiny risks violating principles of financial probity and institutional integrity. Such an approach could lead to accepting funds from sources with questionable ethical standing or imposing undisclosed obligations on the university, thereby compromising its academic mission and reputation. This would be a direct contravention of the expected standards of governance and ethical practice. Another incorrect approach that involves selectively disclosing information or downplaying potential risks associated with the funding source is a failure of transparency and honesty. This not only violates ethical principles, but also potentially breaches regulatory requirements for accurate reporting and disclosure. Such actions can lead to severe reputational damage and legal repercussions for the university. A professional decision-making framework for similar situations should involve a multi-stakeholder consultation process, including relevant university committees and legal counsel, to assess the implications of any funding proposal. It should also involve a clear risk assessment matrix and a commitment to upholding the university's mission and values above short-term financial gains. Adherence to the specific regulatory framework of Baha University's entrance exam, which emphasizes integrity and responsible governance, is paramount. Question 19. Governance review demonstrates that a prominent local businessperson has offered a substantial donation to Baha University, earmarked for a new research facility. However, preliminary inquiries suggest the donor's business practices have faced public scrutiny regarding labor conditions and environmental impact. The university's finance committee is eager to accept the funds to expedite the facility's construction. Which of the following represents the most responsible and ethically sound approach for Baha University? Option A. Accept the donation immediately to secure the funding for the research facility, given the significant financial benefit and the donor's local prominence. Option B. Inform the donor that their offer cannot be accepted due to public scrutiny without conducting further investigation to avoid any potential association. Option C. Accept the donation, but stipulate that the funds will be used for general university operations rather than the specific research facility, to distance the university from potential controversies. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive due diligence investigation into the donor's business practices and the source of their wealth, and ensure the donation aligns with the university's ethical guidelines and relevant Saudi Arabian regulations before acceptance. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive due diligence investigation into the donor's business practices and the source of their wealth, and ensure the donation aligns with the university's ethical guidelines and relevant Saudi Arabian regulations before acceptance. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's immediate financial needs with its long-term ethical and regulatory obligations. The pressure to secure funding quickly can lead to overlooking crucial due diligence, potentially exposing the university to reputational damage and legal repercussions. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any funding arrangement aligns with Baha University's governing principles and the relevant Saudi Arabian regulations for educational institutions. Correct approach involves a thorough assessment of the potential donor's background and the proposed use of funds, ensuring compliance with Baha University's internal policies and Saudi Arabian laws governing donations and institutional integrity. This proactive due diligence is essential to prevent association with unethical practices or illicit activities, thereby safeguarding the university's reputation and its commitment to academic excellence and ethical conduct. An approach that prioritizes immediate financial gain without adequate scrutiny of the donor's source of wealth or the implications of the donation would be ethically unsound and potentially violate Saudi Arabian regulations concerning financial transparency and anti-money laundering. Accepting funds from a source with questionable integrity could lead to the university being perceived as complicit in unethical or illegal activities, damaging its standing within the academic community and with the public. Another incorrect approach would be to proceed with the donation based solely on the donor's influence or promises of future contributions, without verifying the legitimacy of the current offer. This demonstrates a failure to adhere to principles of good governance and financial prudence, potentially exposing the university to risks associated with undisclosed conflicts of interest or conditional funding that could compromise academic freedom. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that emphasizes ethical considerations and regulatory compliance. This involves 1. Identifying the ethical and regulatory issues at play. 2. Gathering all relevant information, including background checks on potential donors and the terms of any proposed donation. 3. Evaluating the potential risks and benefits of each option, considering both financial and reputational impacts. 4. Consulting relevant university policies and Saudi Arabian laws. 5. Seeking advice from legal counsel or ethics committees if necessary. 6. Making a decision that upholds the university's integrity and long-term interests. Question 20. Governance review demonstrates that Baha University is facing a significant budget deficit for the upcoming academic year, and a potential donor has offered a substantial sum of money with minimal conditions, which could immediately alleviate the financial pressure. However, preliminary inquiries suggest the donor's business practices have been subject to public scrutiny in the past. The university's leadership must decide how to proceed with this offer. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the principles of good governance and ethical conduct for an educational institution in Saudi Arabia? Option A. Negotiate a partial acceptance of the donation, accepting only a portion that is deemed less risky, while still prioritizing the immediate financial needs over comprehensive ethical vetting. Option B. Initiate a thorough due diligence process to investigate the donor's background, the source of funds, and any potential reputational or ethical implications before making a decision, while exploring alternative, albeit slower, funding solutions. Option C. Reject the donation outright due to the donor's past scrutiny without further investigation to avoid any potential association, even if it means facing severe financial constraints. Option D. Accept the donation immediately to address the urgent budget deficit, deferring any detailed investigation into the donor's past until after the funds are secured. The correct answer is D. Accept the donation immediately to address the urgent budget deficit, deferring any detailed investigation into the donor's past until after the funds are secured. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's immediate financial needs with its long-term ethical and regulatory obligations. The pressure to secure funding quickly can lead to overlooking potential conflicts of interest or misrepresenting the institution's financial health, which are serious ethical and regulatory breaches. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any funding arrangement aligns with Baha University's mission, values, and the governing regulations for educational institutions in Saudi Arabia. The correct approach involves a thorough due diligence process that prioritizes transparency, ethical conduct, and compliance with Baha University's internal policies and relevant Saudi Arabian educational and financial regulations. This includes a comprehensive assessment of the potential donor's background, the terms of the donation, and any associated obligations or expectations. It requires seeking independent legal and financial advice to ensure the donation does not compromise the university's academic integrity or operational independence. Adherence to the principles of good governance, accountability, and responsible financial management, as expected of Saudi educational institutions, is paramount. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the financial benefit without scrutinizing the donor's motives or the implications of the donation would be a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This could lead to accepting funds from sources that are not aligned with the university's values, potentially creating reputational damage or even legal repercussions if the funds are linked to illicit activities or if the university is perceived to be unduly influenced. Another incorrect approach that bypasses established university approval processes and relies on informal agreements with the donor would violate internal governance structures and potentially Saudi Arabian regulations concerning institutional finances and donor relations. This lack of formal oversight increases the risk of mismanagement, undisclosed conflicts of interest, and non-compliance. A professional decision-making framework for such situations should involve 1. Identifying the ethical and regulatory considerations. What are the university's obligations and potential risks? 2. Gathering relevant information. Understand the donor, the proposed donation, and any associated conditions. 3. Consulting stakeholders. Engage with relevant university departments, legal, finance, academic, and potentially external advisors. 4. Evaluating options against established criteria. Assess each funding opportunity based on alignment with university values, regulatory compliance, and long-term sustainability. 5. Making a reasoned decision. Choose the option that best upholds the university's integrity and objectives. 6. Documenting the decision. Maintain clear records of the process and rationale.